Hey, just checking in, but er runs since Bayern. Top of the Bundesliga, 9 clear of Leverkusen, and flying in Europe. Freiburg was tight, but Xavier and Kudus made the difference. Next up, Leverkusen under Pep Lijnders. They'll be desperate to close the gap. And then it's PSG, big tests ahead. You ready for this?
Hello everyone and welcome to episode number 35 of Red Bull KloppBot here on SHOWDOWN FM with Leipzig. I hope you're doing well and coming up today. It's our first couple of games back from the November international break here, and we're going to take on Bayer Leverkusen in a top of the Bundesliga clash against the former Salzburg manager in Pep Lijnders, the trader, before we then take on PSG in the Champions League. So if you're looking for those two games coming up in today's episode, then do make sure to go down below, leave a thumbs up on the video, all that good YouTube algorithmic stuff. At the end of last week, we took on Bayern Munich in the Bundesliga as well as Borussia Dortmund in the Champions League. So if you missed that one, I'll leave a link to it over in the top right corner. Our first couple of drop points there in the Bundesliga, thankfully made it 2 wins from 2 though in the Champions League. Our first game today does come in the Bundesliga. You can probably see there from the table, we have not dropped any more points off the back of that draw that we did pick up against Bayern Munich. You can see the teams that we've taken on to be here weren't that good, but still pretty convincing 4-1 win there over Hoffenheim, a double there to Cisco, as well as goals to Bijetic as well as to Almas. Off the back of that in the Bundesliga then, a very late winner there from Talles Magno to pick up a 2-1 win over Stuttgart. That would have been a game I would have been pretty filthy if we didn't get maximum points from, because look at those stats in that XG. Not even too sure how Stuttgart got an equaliser in that game, but thankfully did find a way late there through Talles Magno, picking up a double to grab all 3 points. Now off the back of a second round win in the DFB Pokal over Hanover from down in the 2 Bundesliga. That was 4-0 goals there to Benziger, Magno again, as well as Marban. We then picked up a 4-1 win over Hoffenheim. They're going to be a struggle this year in the Bundesliga, already quite far adrift on the bottom of the table. Cisco there chipping in with a hat-trick. And before that international break that we did just have, we just did enough to pick up a 1-0 win at home over Freiburg thanks to an early Xavi Simons goal. So doing very well there in the Bundesliga. We've actually extended our gap now on top to being quite large at 9 points. Bayer Leverkusen have made their way up the table. Eintracht Frankfurt are still there, albeit they've already played on this match day and they lost. That was to Mainz, and also at home as well. Some poor drop points for those guys. Bayern Munich are still a bit shaky on 21 points. Dortmund have made their way up the table. They were struggling mid-table last time that we did see them. They've been improving, but we're in a very nice position here at this stage of the season with RB Leipzig, at least in terms of the domestic competitions. We've only dropped points in one game since you were last here. It actually came in the Champions League against Midtjylland. Now, we did do a full rotation for this game, did think this was a game we could afford to do that. We were scratchy for a long time, eventually took the lead when Malhero came off the bench and put away a goal with just over 15 minutes left. But unfortunately, pretty much the next highlight, once it loads up and we can see it, Daniel Castillo made his way down the other end, somehow found himself in a ton of space and put it away. To be fair, overall shots on target in that game. A little bit disappointed that we did allow so many from so few shots there from Midtjylland, and they did grab an equaliser. So it was a bad performance there with our rotation. A little bit concerning that, because really that's a team that we should be beating even away from home. Up until that point, don't think they had a single point in the Champions League. So that kind of undid our good work late last week with those wins over Dortmund as well as Arsenal. But thankfully bounced back when we took on Celtic at the start of November with a 3-1 win. They did equalise just before half-time there through Adam Ida, but thankfully in the second half, Klosterman and Marban, they did chip in with goals, so we picked up the points from that game. So a couple of drop points there in the Champions League, which is a little bit concerning. Does mean we've dropped down the table a little bit compared to where we probably should be. That is a big clash coming up. Second up in today's episode, we take on the currently undefeated Paris Saint Germain, who have picked up wins, to be fair, over Bayern Munich and Freiburg. So far doing quite well against German opposition. Quite surprised actually that this is already the third German team they're taking on in the Champions League this season, but definitely a team that we need to watch out for. But hopefully with that one being at home, we can pick up a win. First up today, we take on Bayer Leverkusen. New manager, of course, they had Graham Potter when we took them on our first game in charge here last season. I'm pretty sure we did a KloppBot's hotspots. If I didn't, you guys can let me know down in the comments. To be fair, I always forget where I do these, even back when I was doing the New Zealand Builder Nation. But these days, Pep Lijnders in charge. This is probably the most interesting thing about this game, or at least it looked like it would be up until they actually made their way up the table quite a bit off the back of the end of last week, because last year he was in charge of RB Salzburg, our fellow European club here, in this save under the Red Bull umbrella. It'll be interesting to see how they get on with him in charge. The key player is Granit Xhaka, the former Arsenal man. These days, 35 years old, is getting quite old, but still looks pretty decent, to be honest with these guys. You guys saw when we ran through this last season. The vice captain, that's Grimaldo at left back. There he is, the Spanish international, but the key player, Pedro Hincapié, the left backs and players there with some very, very good attributes indeed. But their recent form, obviously in the Bundesliga, is quite good. They did get knocked out quite early in the DFB Pokal by Hertha Berlin, but they've made their way up to second, albeit 9 points behind us. So to be fair, this is probably a game that we could afford to drop points in, but hopefully that won't be the case, albeit there is a decent chance of that happening off the back of the international break, because lots of our players have come back on a heavy workload, and quite a few of them are currently injured. Left wing currently is a bit of a problem area for us in terms of backups. Leonard Surma for the Champions League anyway, he's currently going to be out with a groin strain, so he won't be featuring during the course of today's episode. The young 18-year-old who picked up that assist off the bench in that Dortmund game. And also Ujulago, once we go down further, a twisted ankle, might be back for that PSG game, but definitely won't be available for this one, where we do take on Bayer Leverkusen's quite weak there in terms of left wing. Pretty much just got Talis Magno, also Ramsak can do a job there. Our third choice striker alongside that, Benjamin Sesko, did need a rest off the back of the international window, gave him a few days off. He came back and then injured his calf, so unfortunately he won't be fit for this Bundesliga game. Definitely though should be back for that PSG clash, so it does mean that Marban will get a chance in the league up front for this one, our young Mexican wonder kid. And as well as that, Nico Paz, he's injured with a pulled thigh for 1 day. It'll keep him out of the Bundesliga, and of course, he's not registered for the Champions League, so he'll be missing for both of these games in today's episode. And as well as that, Timo Schleck's out, but he's our third choice goalkeeper. That's food poisoning. That's a good player for that to happen to. So a couple of injuries that we are dealing with coming in to this game in today's episode, and also quite a few players on a heavy workload that we are going to give a rest to, because I do think 3 points in the Champions League at the moment might be a bit more useful than 3 points in the Bundesliga. So it does mean our first choice snapback pairing in Lukaber and Diamonde, they are going to be rested for this game. Also Eljif Almas on a heavy workload. So a few players missing for this first game of today's episode, so a good chance it might be here. Only our second time dropping points in league this season, or even our first defeat of the Bundesliga, but hopefully that won't be the case, considering that we did a pretty good number on Bayer Leverkusen last season with, I think, a weaker squad, but definitely testing out the depth in this first game in today's episode, but hopefully can pick up at least a draw and keep that gap on top of the table at 9 points as we take on Pep Lijnders Bayer Leverkusen. And here are the team sheets for our first game of today's episode. First up, Bayer Leverkusen, they are going with a 4-3-3, and it looks like they've got all their key players available. Even Havertz in midfield, pretty sure that's not Kai, otherwise that's a bit random. As I said, lots of changes for us. We've got Cole and Klosterman at the back, as well as that. Got Musa in box-to-box midfield. He gets a start for a rare occasion here in the Bundesliga. Also Nusa at right wing for a bit of a tired Kudus, and of course Marban up top with Ramzak on the bench. It's a bit of a striker come left wing cover for us at the moment, but hopefully can still get the job done and keep that big gap on top of the table. And we don't have to wait long at all here for the first highlight of this game. Just 5 minutes in, and it is Bayer Leverkusen here in the all black for the red trim, who do have a free kick. They find there's someone in lots of space. There's Sola down the right hand side, pulls it back for Jolie Chatard, who pumps that one home into the top right corner, somehow giving him tons of space there down our left hand side. That should be covered from Oosterwolde. A bit concerning because he's one of the better players we're actually starting in this game, but he gets given a ton of space. They pull it back there. We put a little bit of pressure on him, but not too much. Musa probably could do a bit more defensively there, but they beat Restes early, and we go 1-0 down. And just past the halfway mark here of this game on the attack here with a free kick through Bensegi, who unfortunately can't quite hit the target. He's in there as well for Xavi Simon. Somehow missed that one earlier as Eric Martel picks up a yellow card. So far, stats-wise actually on the front foot, but unfortunately Bayer Leverkusen with a higher XG, and of course that one shot on target was the goal. We get a late highlight here, just over 5 minutes left in the first half, albeit again Oosterwolde there with a poor pass. Good chance here for Bayer on the counter-attack, and Oosterwolde there with a foul off ball. Chatard will pull that one across the face of goal. Restes, I think, there comes up with a big save, couple of bites of the cherry there for Bayer Leverkusen, but thankfully we find a way to keep that one out. Might even be an injury from that challenge that Oosterwolde did make, because we're going to have to wait here a while, I think, for this corner to take place. It looks like we'll see what happens, but at the moment, we're just reading the War Child ads here while we wait for the corner to take place. Thankfully, doesn't take too long. Grimaldo will put this one into the mixer, but thankfully, I think that time Osterwalde actually does some decent defensive work, but unfortunately, Bayer here do still have the ball eventually, and Carpi makes his way backwards, and that will do it for that highlight getting deep now into the first half. It's a very even game stats-wise, but the XG really is where things do get quite lopsided in this game, and unfortunately, Bayer Leverkusen did take that early chance, that highlight that just saw. Big XG chance for them there, but thankfully we keep it at 1-0. We're going to make some subs here because lots of players out there are struggling quite a bit on a 6.4, and also those people on yellow cards. Young Kevin Keir, he can come on at left back. Bajcetic can come on in the balling midfield role. Noosa unfortunately struggling, so we better bring on Kudus, and also I think here we'll bring on Ramsak at left wing. We could play David Raum, but he's not too familiar there. Bit more of a left back option, just using him there at the moment, just as an extra body, while we've got all those injuries to the likes of Ujdago as well as to Paz. But we'll tell the guys, not a very good first half, that one, but still believe that they can improve. Currently on track for our first Bundesliga defeat this season as we're 1-0 down. And just coming up to the hour mark in this game, and I think it's time for us here to make another sub, because Pedro Malheiro today at right back not going too well on a 6.4, so Hugo Sakai can come on for him. We're still 1-0 down at the hour mark. Albeit only a few minutes off back of that sub. Now there's a corner here for Bayer Leverkusen. They put that one into the mixer, but thankfully that one's just off target. Second half so far, Bayer Leverkusen, definitely the team on the front foot, it looks like, and that continues here. Grimaldo, he played that ball over there into midfield. They put that one out there to the right-hand side. Not too sure who that was. Might have been Sula with the shot, but thankfully Restes can tip that one over the woodwork. Grimaldo here will take the set piece, and thankfully Restes can come out and claim that one to end that highlight. But we're 1-0 down, and so far haven't been up to too much highlight-wise in this game. Just that free kick we did see earlier through Ben Seguir. About to make our way into the last 15 minutes of this game. Musa goes down to a red heart, but I'm pretty sure now we've used up all our subs. Indeed, that is the case. So I think now you have to try and go a bit wider and be a bit more expressive and see if that helps. Also distribute quickly from the goalkeeper, get our box-to-box midfielder to go into support, and both our fullbacks, they can go into attack as well as the sweeper keeper. Let's just see if those changes might get us going late here in this game with only 10 minutes left. For now, we'll stay positive, but we might need to now go to attack, because so far, not much doing here. In the second half for us, we have 5 minutes of added time here to try and grab an equaliser to stay perfect in the Bundesliga season. It's not going to happen. It's our first defeat. Blimmin' Pep Lijnders gets the better of us. To be fair, so far it has been RB Salzburg, who have been a bit better than Leipzig in the save. Maybe he's the reason why, even though in real life he kind of sucks at the moment, but unfortunately, that's our first loss there of the Bundesliga season. It comes against Bayer Leverkusen, so we drop points there to the team currently in second, and that means that our gap on top does shrink down to 6 points, but still a pretty good position. Hopefully, we'll be rewarded by picking up a win in the Champions League against PSG. So we suffer our first defeat there of the Bundesliga season to the second place Bayer Leverkusen. Unfortunately, Bayern Munich also closed the gap on us, now down to 7 points, because they picked up a 3-0 win over Hamburg on the Sunday, the day after we played that game. So our gap on top now does shrink a little bit, but still not in too bad a position. And off the back of today's episode, got a couple of games we should pick up points. To say a couple, that's the Mainz game in the Bundesliga. The other one is in the DFB Pokal. Our last couple of games before the winter break, they're quite difficult. Might come back for those in tomorrow's episode. Eintracht Frankfurt and Dortmund, either side of Lazio, who we do take on the Champions League, but we beat them 3-0 in the Europa League final last season. But unfortunately, our gap on top of the Bundesliga does get closed down, but hopefully we can now put ourselves into a good position to make our way through straight into that round of 16 in the Champions League by trying to secure a top 8 finish, by trying to hand PSG their first defeat in the competition this season. Currently, as you'd expect, they're on top of the league. Louis Henrique is in charge. Their captain is Marquinhos, the 33-year-old Brazilian defender. Here's what he looks like these days. Surprisingly, only 1-star reputation, which seems a little bit off maybe because of the age, but he's still a pretty decent looking player here in Football Manager. Going down further, the vice captain is Donnarumma in goal, and he does look pretty good. To be fair though, Restes is quite handy for us, our new signing going in to this season, but Donnarumma definitely someone that we're going to need to try and beat worth an absolute boatload of money, but their key player, that's Vitinha, in midfield, the Portuguese international, and he does have a lot of quite nice looking yellow attributes. This PSG team obviously has very high values and quite big wages, and does look quite talented so far. 4 wins from 4 in the Champions League. Hopefully we can find a way to beat them here at the Red Bull Arena. Their form of late is pretty good, albeit they have dropped a couple of points to some surprising teams in League, or like Stade Rennais as well as Brest, who doesn't love a good bit of Brest. They went off the back of that 1-1 draw, but still they're 9 points clear on top of League On, so they will probably be the favourites going in to this game, but hopefully with home advantage we can do what the 2 other German teams haven't been able to do so far in the Champions League and pick up a win. Thankfully, the injury centre, just one player in there these days, that's Asano Drago, only out for 1 more day. We can sneak him on the bench, but hopefully won't have to use him, can save him up maybe for that Mainz game, get him back to fitness off the bench in that one, but thankfully it does mean got the likes of Benjamin Sesko back for this Champions League game and hopefully can return to winning form over Paris Saint Germain. And here are the team sheets for this big clash in the Champions League. We're a lot stronger than we were for that Bayer Leverkusen game. Only changes to our regular best 11 are Raum at left back, and we have got Bajcetic there in the ball-wing midfield. Unfortunately, Martel is still on a heavy workload, a homegrown lad. There is PSG. Looks like they're going with a bit of a 4-3-3, or it could be a bit of a 4-1-4-1, as I've said previously. I do think the formation screen here in the Champions League is a bit weird, but it's a strong PSG team. Hopefully we can find a way to hand them their first defeat of the season so far, and that should give us a pretty good chance of making up for those drop points to Midtjylland. That was really frustrating off camera, off the back of those other wins we've picked up over teams in particular like Arsenal away from home, as well as Dortmund, because those are some big points early on to put us in a strong position. Hopefully, here's a good sign. Got a highlight nice and earlier throw in, and Xavi will find Sesko back in the team. He puts that one past Donnarumma, who, to be fair, didn't put up much of an effort there in goal to try and stop that one, and that makes it 1-0 nice and earlier. Easy throw-in routine here. We find Kudus. He finds Simons, who gets him behind. That's some pretty sloppy work there from Donnarumma, to be fair. Bit of a deflection there off a defender. But a great start. We go 1-0 up early. Albeit not too off the back of that opening highlight. Now we go down the other end here for a corner to PSG, which Vitinha will take edge of the box. Dembele will take on the shot. It takes a big deflection. I think that one off of Malhilo. So it beats Lijnders. They make it 1-1 very early here in this game. So unfortunately, not in front for too long. It's a bit of a cheesy goal. Concede that one. A short corner kind of goes edge of the box. We're marking Dembele quite tightly, but Malhiro gets right in the way of Lijnders, and the ball finds its way into the top left corner, all square, 15 minutes in. And we have to wait a little while here for the next highlight of this game, just inside the last 10 minutes here of the first half. It is a corner in our favour. Looking at Bink there for Sesko near post. Unfortunately, can't quite find him, but we do keep hold of the ball. Almas there will find Xavi, who hits the post, but even then, he was offside, so to be fair, that doesn't cost us too much. You can see the stats there. Been a very quiet game so far, off the back of both teams scoring with their first shots of the game, and it's 1-1 going in to half time. Just checking the right hand side of our defence, it looks a little bit average so far. Malhilo on a 6.4 did struggle as well in that previous game. Obviously, that big deflection kind of helped them score that goal they got there off the back of our opener, which was through Benjamin Sesko. So we're going to run Glosterman here at right back. Also, Cole for Diamonde going okay, but on a yellow card will play things safe, but hopefully can find a way to grab winner in the second half. To be fair, a point against PSG, not too bad, but hopefully can make it free at home. And about 10 minutes into the second half, you get the first hole and thankfully win the ball nice and early here. Magno heads that one back to Almas. An interesting back pass, but thankfully Costello is onto that one and we keep hold of the ball. Colwell plays it to Xavi. Lovely ball over the top there for Benjamin Sesko. Controls it with his chest and chips that one, it looks like, over Donnarumma, who so far not up to too much there, the goalkeeper here for PSG. And thankfully, we go back in front nice and early here in the second half. And that should hopefully make sure we at least grab something from this game. But that ball from Simons is a really nice one. And then Sesko controls it well with his chest and just puts it there past Donnarumma, who rushes out and tries to put some pressure on him. For some reason, we get a replay here for a tight offside. It was pretty clear cut, but thankfully, every shot on target now has been a goal. Hopefully, it stops now that we've taken a 2-1 lead, albeit before we wrap things up here, we do have Mohamed Kudus down to a red heart, so we'll take him off here for Antonio Nusa off the back of taking a 2-1 lead. And only a few minutes on from that previous sub, now we're going to make our last couple here in this game because both Xavi Simons and Magno have dropped down 2 red hearts. Magno on a 6.5. We will definitely take off. Don't want to bring on Ojlago, so we might have to bring on Ramsak here at left wing. Also going to bring on Ben Seguir for Simons. A little bit risky that one because Simons has set up both the goals so far, but Ben Seguir does have a nice link up with Benjamin Sesko. And to be fair, Simons do want to keep him fit, especially with how injury prone our guys are off the back of that most recent international break. But thankfully, still got a 1-goal lead here going in the last 15 minutes of this game in midfield now. That drops down 2 red hearts. And just about to make our way the last 10 minutes, we have a throw in here pretty much inside the final third. Good ball there for Sesko, but that's a big save finally from Donnarumma Buggerum. That means that we are still 2-1 up. Probably should have made it 3-1. Man United beating Bayern Munich 3-0. That's a bit surprising there. Rasmus Højlund actually doing a good job. That's an interesting result as well as Red Star beating Fenerbahce. We've got them quite late in the Champions League this season. Unfortunately, we can see the foul off the back of that corner. Off the back of that though, we will start to just time waste ever so slightly. So hopefully PSG don't get any chances late in this game. But as I say that, there's a highlight, and it's from that free kick from the foul that I think Almas did give away. Dembele there, thankfully, a bit loose on the ball, so Raum can get that ball back for us. Hopefully can score one more goal here. That should put this game to bed. But currently, we're trying to make our way out from back, and Colwell does a shocking job there, but thankfully, not too sure who that chance fell to, but puts it over the bar. That was a big one there for PSG to grab an equaliser. Still, every shot on target in this game has been a goal. About to make our way into 4 minutes of added time. I think we'll just slow down the tempo here and up the time wasting. So hopefully, we can hold on here and pick up a pretty big 3 points to make up for that slight shocker that we did have with the rotation away at Midtjylland. And thankfully, looks like that will be the case. Indeed, it will. Bajcetic there, an orange injury late. Hopefully, that's not too serious. But to be fair, that was a pretty quiet game. But thankfully, Sesko picked up a goal in each half to cancel out the one that Dembele scored pretty swiftly off the back of the opener. And we pick up a 2-1 win. XG-wise, a game we actually dominated quite a bit, even though overall it was not up to much that game. For both teams, we only had 6 shots. PSG, they had 4, but thankfully we've got Sesko back for this one, and he proved the difference. He picks up both goals and sees us through to a 2-1 win, and that firmly puts us now inside of the top 8, even a loss, and we should stay inside that. So in a strong position to hopefully make our way through the round of 16, albeit still with 3 games left, but doing well off the back of that 2-1 win over PSG. So thankfully we bounced back there from that loss in the Bundesliga against Bayer Leverkusen with a win over the previously undefeated in the Champions League PSG, and we jump above them into 4th spot, currently the only undefeated team in the Champions League. That would be Barcelona, albeit also actually Real Madrid and Juventus we are as well. Kind of feels like that Midtjylland draw though was a defeat, but Barca on their team who have been perfect, but we're in a quite strong position. We have 3 points clear even of some teams inside of the top 8. Newcastle actually doing quite well there. They picked up a draw against Man City, even with a red card. We've got them, and our second to last game might come back for that later this week, and just see if we do indeed make our way through to that round of 16 straight away, or end up down in that first knockout playoff round. Hopefully that won't be the case, because then a few less fixtures for us to deal with off the back of the resumption of the season here in Germany. But I think that will do it for today's episode. Unfortunately, suffer our first defeat of the season, as I said, the Bayer Leverkusen and Pep Lijnders, but bounced back there with a 2-1 win over PSG. Currently in this competition, actually beating all the big teams, just that Midtjylland game. But if you enjoyed today's episode, then do remember to go down below, leave a thumbs up on the video, and if you haven't done so already and are enjoying the series here on the channel, also make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn that notification bell on as well. We'll come back tomorrow, and I think we'll play the 2 Bundesliga games right before we hit that winter break. So we'll take on Eintracht Frankfurt, firmly inside of the top 4 of the Bundesliga, and just behind them, Borussia Dortmund. They're both away. We might sneak in one of the KloppBot's hotspots, maybe for Dortmund, seeing as that's the team that he did used to manage, of course, did beat Dortmund just at the end of last week in the Champions League. Hopefully can do it again in the Bundesliga. If we can pick up wins there, that should give us a nice gap going into that mid-season break. And also, hopefully, we can pick up a result against Lazio like we did in the Europa League final last season. Also, before we wrap things up for today's episode, Stefan Bajcetic did pick up that injury late on in that game, but thankfully only out for 1 to 2 days. So hopefully, when we come back for those Bundesliga games tomorrow, both these guys will be fit, and we'll finally have a full squad available here at RB Leipzig. But until tomorrow for those games against Eintracht Frankfurt and Dortmund in the Bundesliga, thank you very much for watching. Keep on keeping on, and I'll see you then. Cheers.